And joining me now is Jan Morrison. Jan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited about the opportunity.
So your organization focuses on creating infrastructure rather than specific programs. Can you maybe share with us what are the key components of a successful STEM education ecosystem, and how do you sort of tailor them for different countries and different communities?
Well, thanks so much for the question. First of all, an ecosystem is really the important word in all of this. An ecosystem indicates that partners are interdependent, that communities that have all kinds of assets work together so that their opportunities are a single opportunity, but everybody has a role and responsibility. When you're talking about STEM education, regardless of who you're educating, whether it's in the periphery, whether it's in Tel Aviv, wherever you happen to be, you could be in Cairo. All education should be generated from the idea of what the need is for the children and eventually from the young adults, and what the role is of the community in educating. The reality is, it isn't just a school's responsibility or an administration's responsibility or even a Ministry of Education's responsibility to educate our children. It is everybody's responsibility. And that's the theory behind the designing work that goes on in ecosystems. STEM is very important because it is science, technology, engineering, and math at the very basis, but it is also design, emergent technologies, computational thinking and literacy, and many more. I hope that's helpful.
Absolutely. And you've worked with countries like Egypt, Kenya, and Iceland. So, what are the biggest challenges in sort of adapting STEM education across such different cultural, linguistic, and economic landscapes? And how do you turn those differences into strengths?
I think you've nailed it. It's a linguistic issue. Our languages are different, and our cultures and our languages support our cultures. You have to be there. You have to do things and activities and design with populations, not for them. It is really their opportunity to do that kind of design work for themselves. It's important for the communities to learn how to design, how to solve their problems, how to bring the best of their own assets to the problem itself. What we do is we facilitate. Design has been around a long time. Whether you're designing the pyramids have been designed that way, whether it's the Vatican, whether it's big new buildings in Tel Aviv, it's all the design process. And that serves all of us really very well.
And you emphasize that STEM education should start early, well before students enter the workforce. So what are the most effective ways to integrate, these real-world skills into K through 12 education so students are prepared for the demands of the economy?
Well, I actually would say pre-K-12. I think the littlest of hands at 3 years old have the ability to tinker, to take up something and in their mind to solve it, to move across their midline, to use their hands, gross motor, fine motor coordination, to build. We've seen children of the youngest ages using Lego or blocks, and they're on swing sets and they're creating all kinds of things. All of that's absolutely critical to the building of the opportunity to be in physics or in engineering or whatever it is later in life. So I think when you're talking about that, talking about a STEM education, it isn't just the fact that you learn your academics, your mathematics or chemistry or whatever the algorithms are. It's the fact that we make use of them and we learn how, from the beginning, to tinker with them.
And how can competency-based education improve the STEM educational continuum?
I don't think you can separate them. I think as human beings in a world on this planet, I think competencies and those durable skills are always part of what we talk about in STEM education and in solving problems and developing innovations. Whether you're talking about critical thinking or whatever the durable skill is, or if you're talking about skills that are specific to the different sectors like advanced manufacturing, which might include welding, or if you're talking about biotech. It doesn't matter. I think the reality is the whole idea of skills includes those durable skills as well as the knowledge-based part of the skills. And I think we have to be sure that we have both going on. And I think that's why we have disaggregated this into durable skills and then others. But it is always important that for the user, it feels smooth and seamless so that they understand what they're learning and why they're learning it.
And how much of a need is there for sort of cross-sector partnerships in shaping a successful STEM initiative? Can you maybe share an example of a partnership that has significantly impacted STEM education and economic development?
I think that's such a great question because it's not a natural question in our world. We don't automatically think of business and industry having a role in a community or with educators. But let me give you an example. There's a wonderful example in upstate New York in which Micron, which is one of the largest semiconductors industries, businesses in our world, was trying to decide where they were going to put their plant. And they were thinking about upstate New York. There's a beautiful STEM ecosystem in East Syracuse, Minoa, right outside of Syracuse. And they got involved with the economic development group there in helping Micron decide whether or not that was a good place. Micron has such a great partnership now with that ecosystem that they felt comfortable in putting the plant there because they know not just intuitively, but with reality that there will be a workforce that they can tap from and have a partnership with, and therefore it was smart to put their plant there. And that's an ecosystem move.
And many traditional teaching methods today, they fail to engage students in STEM. What are the most effective pedagogical strategies for keeping students engaged and ensuring they develop the right problem-solving skills?
I think you give them real problems that they care about. When the Egypt schools were developed from the very beginning, there was a capstone approach to the engagement of kids with their environment. In Egypt, in Cairo, urban congestion is a huge problem. So what their capstone problem, or one of them, is urban congestion. It's a phenomenal mathematics opportunity. It's laminar flow at its best. So it's physics as well. And that kind of real world opportunities that students care about, that isn't just found, those problems are just found at the back of their books, but they come to the heart of what they really believe, then you got it. Then you have them engaged, and they then become agents of their own education. And STEM just lives and breathes.
And so, as you mentioned before, the earlier the better when it comes to STEM education. So what steps could and should educators take to ensure that students gain this sort of hands-on, minds-on experience from this early age?
Well, I think Israel has got a phenomenal example of this. Lockheed Martin created with the Ministry of Education Mata Kids, which is the Lockheed Martin kindergartens, STEM kindergartens. And I think there are 30 of them now, or there were to be 30, will be 30 in Israel. That's an example of STEM meeting the preschool. It's an example of how parents get involved, how the community is involved, and kids can tinker within the curriculum that is part of the Ministry of Education. It's a beautiful example for our whole planet.